The kitchen looked as if the portable TV on the counter corner could still pull in a grainy black and white Ed Sullivan show on Sunday night. It was not the messiness that time hadn't caught up to. It was as if time itself had been hoarded through the avocado green refrigerator, goldenrod linoleum floor, burnt sienna accent wall, and the turquoise painted birch wood cabinets with ecru, not ivory, she would have said, knobs. All the colors held together with a tablecloth of Mondrian's early Dunes with Beach and Piers, Domburg. It said modern, years past. The wall calendar with pictures of the carpets of the Maharajas was a subscription service she didn't have to think about. The years came to her door. It had the dates X'd out, au courant, she would have said, but for today's, and that one had one diagonal in place. The second would be drawn just before turning out the ceiling light. She must have mentioned the dead fly there. Desmond slid 2 days' unwashed dishes to make room for the cutting board, which meant fancy dinner, she thought. Not from the freezer, except he was wearing some smocky thing like he should know where the ladder is to reach the ceiling light. She checked herself with a bit of an air and brushed the ochre stains on her nightshirt. He got a cucumber from the fridge, and as he peeled it, started humming Red Sails in the Sunset. I'm old enough to remember that, she thought, and joined in softly in the humming. Desmond absently droned, and Kate was sure she had mentioned the fly. Red sails, she said. Surprise, surprise, he said, how you red sails in the sunset out of the blue, drifting, quizzical. He started slicing. Wistful, he said, when people danced with their arms around each other, with no knives, hip-hop today, a violent rap kill cop song on the charts, with a bullet next to it didn't used to mean the rapper was dead. Entirely new world, consternation, drifting, quizzical. He turned to her but got no response. He looked in the cabinets, and Kate got up to dance slowly, a eurythmy-esque solipsism, wafting a napkin as if waving goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II passengers. Dance of the Veils, see page 93, she said, for that bedroom eyes look. Well, that's way back, he said, but sure, Perplexity, Skillet? She pointed in a different direction from where he was looking, which he didn't catch. He stood on his toes, swinging his head back and forth slowly to look in the upper shelves. Confused, confounded, he said. Conning Tower, she said, mimicking his swinging head. Conning Tower, no new drapes on a submarine, see page 128. She walked to a cupboard behind him, and as she reached for the handle, he noticed and jumped in ahead of her. In here, he said, I'll flip in disingenuous gratitude, annoyed. She pulled the door open and was in his way as he reached for the pan. Flustered, he shooed her away. Annoyed, fussing room, he said. Fuss, fusty, she said. Yes, he said, give me fussing room so I can get supper on the table. She reached past him for the skillet. My job, she said. Indignant, petulant, would have found it, he said, and stopped her. She reached again, and he pushed her back, and she dragged a pile of pots clattering to the floor. She laughed tentatively and plopped down amidst them. Indignant, peevish, blaming, he said. Kate held a pot atop her head. Laurel and Hardy, she said. He lifted the pot from her and smiled. Laurel and Hardy, he said. Got it right, she said. Yes, dear, Laurel and Hardy got it right. Hardy was hearty, she said. And that's he said. That's, she said. Desmond drew her out. Engaging, helpful, he said. Helpful, encouraging. He could see something click. Mnemonic, she said. Dismay, if you can remember that, he said, why on earth can't you, curious slugfest, drifting? Laurel was skinny, she said. Yes, said Desmond, his wiggling fingers asking for more. She indicated the mess of pans. They had it right, she said, suddenly raising her voice in a plea. Why else, right? Or else, why else? She scattered the pots with her foot. Okay, he said, and helped her up. As he picked up the pans and put them back, she went to the counter, put a few tomatoes in a pot on the stove, and started slicing at them with the knife. My job, she said. Desmond saw the knife. No, give me that. My job, she said. He took it and her shoulders slumped. My kitchen, she said. Testy rebuttal, he said. Nostalgia, say goodbye to sharp, hot-burning things when you have a big summer issue of Trust. He extended her arm to her side and pretended to slice her palm, the tomato leaving a slash mark. She didn't recoil. He nodded, superior. Unctuous, smarmy, ambulance, you can't be trusted, he said, rhetorical, insistent rhetorical. She extended her other arm, crucifixion-like, and he hesitated, then pretended to slice her other palm, again leaving a red mark and again getting no reaction. Unctuous, be dead and not know it, he said. She dropped her arms, started to wipe her hands on her nightshirt, but he got a dish towel. Unctuous finality, he said. My own good, she said, showing him the reddened towel. He nodded and took it. Be dead, not know it, she added. Yes, he said supportively. She stepped to him, touched his cheek. God so loved, she said, making it one word. He shrugged. God so loved? She said. Me, he said. Sure, she said. Me, Desmond, he said. You Hardy, she said, and picked up a wooden spoon for approval. Wait, he said. Me, God, so loved? Or me, God so loved, he said. Kate grew more exasperated. Hardy had it right. Skinny one was Laurel. Skinny one on a laurel crucifix. No, pine. Pining for God. Pining for holly bush. Okay, stop there, he insisted, and put her wooden spoon to stirring the tomatoes in the pot. Stew of holly blood, see page, she said. I said stop there, he said. Just stir. And don't stir, she said, giving him a sharp look. You in words, he said, urging her back to motion. Oh, and don't let me forget anything trash day next Tuesday. Don't forget anything trash day next Tuesday, she said simply. Not now, he said, if I forget, come the day. She plugged, if you forget the trash sails without you into the red sails in the sunset tune, and Desmond laughed. Is that a joke or? She looked at him blankly. Never mind, he said. Sing-song butter unless drifting. Also, I'll boil some eggs if sunrise. 3. She walked to the refrigerator, took out 3 eggs. Desmond took one from her and squeezed the 2 ends between his fingers. Ovoid, perfect. A+ geometry can't crack. Why God so mind, she said, if something strong just cracks another way? Desmond waited, as he found himself doing more lately, for something from her, a tip-off from anywhere but the ever-present. Then she cupped her groin and pulled out the butter. Imprecation, Desmond shouted as she turned around. Chastise Kate, a no-no finger in the dike, he said. She guiltily removed her cupped hand. Redundant over this, he said. Kate was embarrassed. Pleonasm, noun, redundancy, she offered as if to a parent. What? Desmond said. Neoplasm. Now she laughed, but again as a child. Neoplasm, noun, tumor, she said, confusing. Redundant, been over this, he said, cupping his groin. Now she was her own mirth. Redundant, she said. He pointed out of the kitchen. Pouty big girl's bathroom by herself, he said. She put the butter dish on the table, let out a quiet gasp as she remembered the butter knife in a drawer, and she placed that and left the kitchen. Desmond took out half a bottle of wine from the cabinet, uncorked it, tried to taste, and started pouring it out in the sink, but stopped abruptly at the knock on the door. He parted the curtains warily, then took out a key from his pocket to unlock it. A middle-aged man in suit and loosened tie, a tan from somewhere else, didn't wait for Desmond to invite him in, but his first steps slowed as he took things in. "Surprise, surprise," said Desmond flatly. The man lifted a few of the dirty dishes as if uncovering archaeological clues, and Desmond locked the door surreptitiously. The man cocked an ear to the sound of the key turning. He opened the refrigerator door, shook his head. He retrieved the knife that was still in the tomato pot and said, "No, I can't stay for dinner." He noticed the stack of mail and riffed through it, separating it into two piles. "Where is she?" he said. Desmond tried to take the mail. The man, while not a boxer, had the look of someone who could turn any four walls into a ring, and he elbowed him back. "Kate," he called. Desmond offhandedly pointed out of the kitchen. The man tore open an envelope. "I sent this 3 weeks ago," he said. "It's her birthday card. She did celebrate her birthday. Does she get out? What's with the inside lock? That's new. You some kind of prison guard now." Desmond muttered to himself, "For her own good." "What? Speak up, old man." "For her own good," he muttered again. And he picked up the bottle of wine to drink. "Oh, no," the man said, taking it. "Happy hour is over now. Does she get out? Does she see friends? That woman across the street? You have her ostracized?" "In the street?" Desmond said, looking hard at the man. He grabbed the bottle by the neck, met resistance, and then tilted both their hands to pour out the rest. "Be dead, not know it," he said. "You treat her," the man said, taking out a handkerchief to wipe splashed red wine droplets from his hand, "like she's some second-class piece of—" "Fudge," said Desmond. "What?" the man said. "Fudge," he said. "Her birthday gift? I didn't forget. Plus 74 spanks. Why are you here, Cal?" "I tried to call," he said, "but the phone company keeps telling me—" He went to the phone on the wall and followed the line down and held up the cut end. She did that," Desmond said. "I don't believe you," the man said. "Well, by inference," Desmond said. "Kept trying to call Holly." "Holly," Cal said. "Your sister," Desmond said. "I know who she is," Cal said. "So I had to," Desmond said. "I can see your point," Cal said sarcastically. "You wouldn't want her to talk to Holly, would you?" Desmond squared up. It would be no contest, but Desmond had acquitted his share of those. "What do you mean by that?" he said. "Listen, whelp, you come into my house," but he stopped his finger jabs short. Cal removed his glasses, purposefully folded them, set them aside. He straight-armed Desmond back from him. "You don't want to close that last inch, bud," he said. "Let's get this real clear in everybody's mind. This is her house. You're just a guy can minute waltz a widow." "4 years I'm here," Desmond said, spinning away and flinging his arm in the air and nearly hitting Cal. "And next time you do that," Cal said, "I better see a taxi you're hailing." He put on his glasses. "What are you hanging around for, Desmond? The bloom is long off the rose, so all that leaves is motive. You going for common law where you end up with half this place? Or rewrite the will and get it all?" "That's you, isn't it?" Desmond snorted. "Mr. Bottom Line, Mr. Time equals money. Hey, you're so concerned about getting ahead, why don't you just make time equal double money? There's a quality concept for your next meeting." Cal took in the sink mess for Desmond. "Like you know a damn thing about quality." "We tried," Desmond said. No, Cal said. "This is not her. Her sense of style set trends. She was the editor at one of the glossiest fashion monthlies. She is meticulous." He went around flouncing the curtains on the windows and door. Hell, I'll bet these cafe curtains each have the same number of stitches. Kate entered, drying her hands on her soiled nightshirt. Seeing Cal, she stopped, then with a lost gesture ran a hand through her hair. What the? Mom, he said. Desmond tried to usher her to the table, but she stood firm. Cal here just flew in for business and decided to come over. No reason. Quiet, Cal said, and handed Kate the card. Happy birthday. She looked at the card but didn't open it, so he opened it for her. She goes in and out like a radio station, Desmond said. Cal wheeled on Desmond. Shut up! And Kate dropped the card, which Cal picked up. Apologetic, soothing, dulcet, he said to her. You can't pop in and expect to get through, Desmond said. What have you done to her? Cal said. Done, said Desmond. I've done nothing. I was here, 8 months ago, Cal said. Dutiful, said Desmond. I mean, Cal said, she was vacant, but she was helping the church, some fundraising sale. Does she still bake? Bake, said Desmond. Oh yeah, right after fixing the dehumidifier. Alzheimer's is downhill, fast or slow. There ain't no rope tow back up. But that was June, for Christ's sake, Cal said. Our biggest issue, Kate said. Garter belts say bye-bye. Cal stepped to his mother. Quizzical? Insistent quizzical? Desmond said, you are not getting through to her. Her biggest issue of the year would be June, with the weddings and swimsuits and travel, whatever. To her, he said, right? Bye-bye up those garter belts? And you think you're talking to her, Cal said. Yeah, Desmond said. She picks up emotions and some thoughts. I mean, I and you were both talking regular sentences to her, but she's got some filter that fucks up. Typo, she said. It was a word she always used with enthusiasm. She added foxes, maybe, but bad mix. Some filter that mucks, Desmond corrected, everything up. But I, anyway, get through, yes. We pass the days. You're joking, said Cal, when she doesn't even recognize her son. Sonny, Kate said, straightening the straight napkins on the table. Cal leaned into her. Mom, it's me, Sonny. June, Sonny, she said, 224 pages, bouquet, piqué, élevé, plié. She plied and sat in the chair. What? Said Cal. See, said Desmond, bouquet. They had 4 perfume inserts in that big June issue. She talks about it like it was yesterday. I found a copy in the closet last month. So many smells mixed together even now. It was like, or as if, simile like, she said, metaphor as. Then Desmond said, like Godzilla stepped on perfume factories all the way to Tokyo. He took giant, awkward strides to Kate, his arms outstretched. Right? Godzilla? She faux recoiled and laughed. Desmond smugly smiled at Cal. There's no way you two, Cal said. Summer solstice, he said to Kate. Biggest issue, she said. Winter solstice, Cal said. Biggest issue, she said. See, Cal said to Desmond. I mean, you could put an Aboriginal in with a Russian in a space station and something will, he made a series of clicking, clucking noises. Enough of those, he said, and the Russian will know how to say pass the salt after a while, but Desmond held up his hand. He faced Kate and mimicked those clicks and clucks. Das Vidanya, she said, and started to pick up her napkin to wave it. No need, Desmond said, resting his hand on hers, and cocked his head toward Cal and walked backwards as if he had just bowled a strike. Das Vidanya, bath salts, see page 56, she said, for that bedroom eyes look. Yeah, I thought so, said Cal. You're deluded, and she needs care. He helped Kate from her chair and held out her nightshirt. She wouldn't be caught dead in this stained palette thing, and her hair, her nails. Desmond ushered Kate out of the kitchen. Okay, he said to her, change in the air. Cal got out his cell phone, loosened his tie, and gathered up one of the piles of mail. Barely a signal, he said, oh, hello? Connect me to American Airlines, please. What are you doing with those? Desmond said. I am going to... Yes, hello, he said. I need to change my reservation. Hello? Damn, the call dropped. Desmond grabbed the mail from his hand. Routine around here is bills get paid end of the month. Give me those, Cal said. They are addressed to her. You don't live here, Desmond said. We got laws, snooping laws. Oh, I've done the snooping, Cal said. I know you. I know the downtown corner you came from. It wasn't pity, Desmond said. Oh, she stopped the car every morning at the light on her way to work, Cal said, and gave you $3 for lunch? You don't know the core of it, Desmond said. I know you, you shabby, homeless riffraff, Cal said. No, there was, Desmond said. It wasn't pity. With your sign, Cal said, riding over him, with no hyphens between prisoner of war, which she first rolled down the window to correct. Her friend over there told me the whole tale. So, sir, as far as routine, I suggest you get a fresh piece of begging cardboard to rewrite your German POW sob story. Maybe you can get your old street corner back. Desmond made sure this wasn't a question. What are you going to do? Tomorrow, Cal said, I am going to social services to file a complaint or restraining order or overstayed his welcome execution or whatever the fuck all form they have to get you out and then put her in a care facility. You can't do that, Desmond said. You want to bet I'm her son? Well, she's my, Desmond said. She's your what? Kate stepped into the kitchen for approval, her hair brushed, a clean-looking nightshirt on. There you are, Desmond said, looking fresh for dinner. Hey, aren't you my runway girl? Kate did a model's walk perfectly, one foot smartly in front of the other, a book suddenly atop her head. She whirled in front of them and walked back, revealing the ochre stains and that the nightshirt had just been turned around. Cal glared at Desmond. I'll get her in another outfit, Desmond said. You leave her alone, said Cal, drawing her to a chair. You don't live here, remember? Calvin, don't do it, he said. There's not much makes me smile these days, but she does. We get by, more than get by, really. I mean, you did drop in unexpected. Cal weighed this, opened his mouth to speak, but held off. He pulled up a chair next to Kate. Mom, he said, and she looked up. We always did these at the dinner table. You're the wordsmith, right? Fill in the blanks, puzzlement. Hyphens, not dashes, she said. Of course, Cal said. Now, focus. Pocus, she said. No, he told her, focus. Okay? Like blank of lark, exultation. A blank of lions, pride. Come on, here you go. A blank of crow, murder. No response from her. Okay, Mom, I'll give you an easy one, okay? Okay? He shook his head when she looked away. Hopeless, he said to himself. Where's the blank, Desmond said. Quiet, Cal said. That wasn't it. A zen of hopeless, Kate said. Cal sadly hugged her. She straightened his tie. As he started to the door, Desmond stopped him and said, Look, that's probably a story headline. She's always spouting those. Zen of hopeless, everyday thong wear, see page. Cal moved around him. Wait, she's all I have, Desmond said. When she stopped one day, she had all these belts she wanted to give us to hold our pants up instead of rope and such. Dozens of them left over from photo shoots. All colors, ecru, not ivory, she said. And all widths, vinyl, leather, sashes. Belts are a cinch, Kate said. See page. Hey, Desmond said gently, I'm telling the story. To Cal, he said, later we, she and I, brought sunglasses for the guys. The fanciest names. She had drawers of them taking up space. I helped her get her life in order here. Cal tried the door. Open it. Desmond stiffened. You are not going to toss me, he growled. No hobo corner. I got roots here. No fucking way. Typo, Kate piped in. Open it, Cal said. Desmond unlocked the door, closed it behind Cal, locked it with a covering cough, and slowly returned to cooking. Well, he said, knives, forks, and Kate headed for the silverware drawer. Trinity, she said. She set 2 places at the ends of the table, then added a third. 3 people, he said. Guess, she said. Cal left, he said. Cal saith exultation, Kate said, and Desmond checked her for clarity. Muddled, he said. She returned to arranging the table. Not guessed. Who? He said. She patted the 3rd place setting. Holly. Adamant, repressive, tongue-tied, she's dead, he said, reaching to take the place setting away, and she stopped him. Been dead, he said. Doesn't know it, she said. Desmond took a breath. Reproach a year ago, drifting the car, and there was no mistaking this recollection. Pills, she said. Yes, he said, pills, the car, the garage. Red's tailpipe into the sunset, she said, adding matter-of-factly, possible headline. That's your daughter? He started angrily, but relented when he saw she might weep. If you want to set a place for a ghost, he said, this one time, mind you, be my slugfest. Holly Ghost, she said. Rueful, resigned, he laughed, jocular joke coming, always wanted to see a classified ad for sale, the Holy Grail, beautiful condition, must be appreciated to be seen. She doesn't get it. Echo, redundant, he said. To be seen. He waited. Reassuring, he said, nobody gets it. Grails, she said, and opened a cupboard, looked around. Puzzlement, he said. Grails, she repeated. Oh, goblets, he said, they're for special occasions. She walked in a tight circle, reaching in the air for cabinet handles. Come on, grails, she said, getting warm. Getting warmer, he said, as she scouted. Colder, warm bath salts, warmer, hotter, hot. She opened this cabinet, pulled out a silver goblet, and raised it over her head in victory. Aha, she said, some game in a church. He applauded. She took another goblet out, closed the door, placed the 2 on the table, headed back for the 3rd, but stopped, changed direction, stopped. Chance of helpful temperatures, he said. She opened the wrong cabinet and slammed it in frustration. Irritating, he said. She took the same door and slammed it several times. In starting toward her, Desmond bumped the hot pot, grabbed it before it fell, and burned his hand. Loud, 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 he said, dancing and holding his hand. She tried to help him and was bumped to the floor. She laughed and said, fussing room. He ran his hand under cold water. Laurel and Hardy, she said. Got it right, yes, he said. She stood and examined his hand, kissed it. He kissed her forehead. She grabbed a nearby pot and put it atop his head. Hardy, she said. Denying, he said playfully, defensive, accusatory, antithetical fault, yours. Antipodal fault, yours, she said. Yes, even better, he said. I'll give you that one. I guess being an editor for 15 years, you always nebulous with words what Beethoven was to drifting. Kate made 2 fists. Finish my thought, she said. Desmond cleaned up the spill on the stove. Finish it, she said. He droned. She looked at the ceiling light. Finnish boats have red sails. She waited. Gone, she said. She walked to the right cabinet and got out the third goblet. He put food on 2 plates and brought them to the table, sat and started eating, but she held back. He said. I wish you wouldn't say that, Kate said. Desmond pointedly enjoyed a bite, then held a forkful out to her. She pushed his hand away. Reproach, he said, and tried again. This time she pushed his hand and the plate. As though talking to a child, he said, reproach, cajole, wheedle, guilt. Reproach, cajole, wheedle, guilt, she said angrily. What? That's not what I said, he said. Well, it's what I heard, Kate said. Well, what I said, he started. Who knows what you said? I'm tired of it, Kate said. Tired of what, he said. It was the softest of table poundings. How I am, she said, a radio in and out, picking up pieces, emotions, smatterings. This is good, he said. This is the to and fro, back and forth, the doctor said, we need. Post and repost, she said. Yes, he said, Sally and forth. No and, she said. Right, you're the editor, give and take, toss and flotsam, generic. Generic. He gave up. Kate slid her plate to the third place setting and stared at him until he noticed. Bring her back, Kate said. Finality, he said. Then take me to her, she said. Confused, scoffing, he said. What, she implored, makes sense. Unintelligible was the answer. Kate thought, even pinballs know where they'll end up, and shrieked, ah, God, so loved. Desmond slid the plate back in front of her. Overbearing adamant's one thing to set a place at the table, another to pretend she's repetitive to death, he said. Your fault, she said sharply. What, was his flat reply. Don't let me forget, she said, to hide the car keys, Kate. Holly sounds serious tonight. I reminded you. I'll never let you forget, criminal. What, he said, rising. Shabby, homeless riffraff, she said. Oh, he said, you heard that just fine. Then you heard me tell him, just like I tell you, I got fucking boots here. Typo, she yelled, adding, your fault, you didn't hide the keys, your fault. And he yelled over her, how dare you, blind fury, refutation, hopeless bleakness, imprecation, imputation, see this to the end of strength. He stood over her and cocked his arm to slap her. God so loved, take me to her, she beseeched. Or, she sent her plate to the floor. I starve. Desmond pulled his plate over, grabbed a fistful of her hair, shoved a forkful of food at her. She ate it, but started choking. He went behind her, and before starting the Heimlich maneuver, paused with his clasped hands at her chest. A locomotive idling in the yards, its steam eddies into the thick fog, boxcars to oblivion, sobbing, shouts, dragging feet, a dog's freewheeling nastiness. Desmond reached for the napkin in her lap. Kate, coughing, managed, Heimlich. Heinrich, he said. Heimlich, she said. Himmler, he said. He used the napkin as blindfold on her. He strutted, slapping his thigh. Her coughing caught his attention. Surprise, surprise, he said sympathetically, someone's not well. Kate shifted and stifled her cough in fear. Not me, she said. Yes, you, he said, lifting her nightshirt off her lap. A gypsy. She batted it back down. Not gypsy, she said, just rags. A sick gypsy Jew, he said. No, she said, pink sails. What, he snapped. Healthy, she said, in the pink. You, he said, have a yellow star. Pinks are for others. Unless we have not fully appreciated you on our paperwork, So, homosexual, sick, colorblind, gypsy Jew, is that you? You can tell your Obergruppenführer. I just, Kate said. Guard, he said, take this woman behind that building. Save room on the trains for the healthy. Kate grabbed blindly as if pulling someone toward her. Holly, she cried. Separate them, he said, pulling her arms apart. It started as an inchoate wail, but moved into certainty, falling into the pulse of the locomotive. No more, 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 she said. He moved behind her and untied the blindfold, put the napkin in her lap. She choked, and he placed his hands near her chest, then moved them back to her neck and squeezed. She stopped choking and raised her hands to resist, but faltered. Sing-song, 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 Desmond said. God so loved sing-song. Into your hands commend, she said, and relaxed into his grip. His body took up all its slack. His head tilted, the minute, irreducible shift from stasis to imperative. The way he, an old man, he thought, bent to step off a high curb. He released his hands. Fussing room, he said, and headed to the stove. She floated her napkin to cover the mess on the floor, brushed table crumbs onto it as at a funeral. He got the pot of tomato sauce, squared up his plate of food to her, and held a spoonful over it. Tomato, blood, perplexity, he said. Gravy train? Typo, she said to herself. Grave.